I'll start by saying my proposal is not the best system that money could buy. It's designed as a very good system that any state could implement right away. It starts with 3 basic design principles. Accountability systems should be simple. Any parent or teacher should be able to pick up an accountability report and intuitively understand what they mean. The accountability system should be clear. They should clearly identify which schools need to improve and how they need to do so. And the accountability system should be fair. They should hold schools accountable for what they can control and not be merely a reflection of who they enroll. It starts with test scores used as a screen for identification purposes. It has 2 indices that are equally weighted, achievement and growth. They use the same 5 performance levels that you might be familiar with under No Child Left Behind. There's some value in sending a signal about the proficiency measure, but we need to broaden that and de-emphasize proficiency and create incentives all along the achievement spectrum. The growth index is less sophisticated than some of the other growth models that are out there, but a pilot from the US Department of Education analyzed this sort of growth indice, and it found that it was very reasonable and actually quite consistent with some other more sophisticated models. But what it loses in precision, it more than makes up for in clarity and signals. Every student and every teacher can know exactly where students are and where they need to go in the following year. The system identifies the bottom 5% of schools and then any school that's similarly performing. I estimate that this would be about 30 to 40% in the average state. It would also pick up any school with low performing subgroups or large achievement gaps. Finally, when in doubt, the state should over-identify schools for improvement. There's evidence from the No Child Left Behind era and even before the No Child Left Behind era that being identified for school improvement sent a strong signal to schools that they needed to improve. And they did do so in both short-term aspects and things that had long-term outcomes for kids. The test score screen leads to the prioritization of who needs the most support in schools. And particularly, it's driven by a school inspection process where the final rating is determined by school inspectors that become on-site for schools. They look at things like teaching quality, leadership, and the capacity to improve within the school. They should be conducted by an apolitical, nonpartisan body that the state could either contract out or use internal resources. They should use a structured rubric to monitor test scores, evaluate school quality for particular groups of students, and make sure that all students are getting a high-quality school. There's evidence from the UK and other places that this can lead to meaningful differentiation, and it can meet ESSA's requirements around subgroups of looking at particular groups of students. Perhaps most importantly, school inspections would provide a clear roadmap for how schools can improve.
Okay. That was so fast. I was caught off guard there. All right. Sorry about that. Oh, my goodness. Okay. All right. So one of the key elements of Chad's proposal is this idea of school inspectors. Tony, you want to ask Chad a bit about that?
First of all, Chad, you get a love it for brevity. I guess you in a sense answered my question because you did say that SEAs could contract out the inspections.
Yes, so I ran the numbers looking at a report from 2012 from Craig Gerald, and he estimated how much school inspectors would cost. And states could pay for that with their 7% Title I set aside. And that would almost cover it for every state.
Sure. I mean, it's important because my question to you is how many SEAs really have the internal capacity to do anything that resembles high quality?
My preference would be for them to externally contract it and manage that contract in a high-performing fashion.
With a group like Bellwether Education Partners, is that is this just an infomercial? Have you just hijacked my event, Chad? Is that?
There are external providers that have done this for cities like New York City, or for some charter schools that also contracted for their particular, CMOs do it for particular schools to inspect.
Any particular models you thought about?
I looked at the UK model. That's very strong. They have, like I mentioned, they have a meaningful differentiation of how they analyze their schools. There's the New York City model also has something to be looked at and it's something to be gained from. And states like North Carolina have also used it for improvement purposes.
Joanne, you had some questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you've looked at what the potential unintended consequences of these inspections are. Like, what's the plus side and what's the downside that people need to be careful about?
Yeah, the plus side is that it is an external, I would say actually it's two sides of the same coin. So it's an external review, and so it hinges on schools trusting that as someone that they should trust and follow the recommendations of. because ESSA doesn't actually give states power to determine what interventions are in low-performing schools, the schools themselves need to pick it out, and so they have to trust that the inspections are going to lead to a roadmap for them to actually implement going forward.
Charlene, any questions?
I do actually.
We use the mic over there. How about that?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I did have a question about the inspectors, because you did say that it was important for those to be apolitical people,
No.
and perhaps.
Sorry. All right. Check, check.
Oh.
That might be mine, though. Get real close. There you go.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so my question is, when you talked about having apolitical inspectors, is that really possible? And don't you think inspectors potentially run the risk of maybe leading to standardization or essentialization?
It's a good question. I think the apolitical nature of it would help by having an external body. You could have some sort of review or oversight body of it. Also, by having it separated from the traditional State Department of Ed, I think it would help a lot to say that they're not appointed, they're not overseen by them, and they could report to the legislature, for example, as opposed to reporting to the Department of Ed. So I think that those would help address some of the political concerns.
And Chad, how, these indicators of student success that your inspections would be part of, a lot of people have asked, well, those are supposed to be things that you can break down by the various subgroups. So how do you handle that in an inspection? When the inspection will come in and they would give a rating for the school or say how the school's doing, how would you handle that subgroup issue?
Yeah, the UK model has a look at particular low-performing groups, and so any state could structure their rubric to ensure that they were looking at their subgroups and to ensure that all students were getting a good quality school delivered to them.
Okay. All right, we're going to vote in a moment. Chad, you give 30 seconds to, again, summarize. What are the main points you want people to remember when they're voting, the best parts of your design here?
So test scores used as a flag or a screen over-identify schools for improvement, and then use expert professional inspectors to give schools a roadmap for how to improve going forward.
Okay, you heard it. Very good. Okay, we're going to vote in a moment. Let's show the screen, Ellen, on how this is going to work. Okay. All right, go to www.govote.at.
Do they show up right as right?
Yeah, go ahead. You can sit down. All right. You're going to enter. We've got this code again. Oh, we can't quite. There it is. Okay, 40, 53, 53. It's really fun. Come on, guys, do it. If you've got your phone, you got to give this a try. Here and at home. All right.
You have to give us permission.
Okay, we're going to give you permission. No problem. There we go. Voting is okay. Let's see if that works. It works. Oh no, hate it. Somebody hated it right out in the back. Ouch. Ouch. Here it comes. Ooh, this is fun to watch. Look at this in real time. Oh.
Ooh, look at that.
This is a little bit like watching the returns last night, except more movement. Okay. We're going to give you a few more minutes, and then we're going to hear, a few more seconds, we're going to hear from our judges. Okay, it looks like we're pretty stable here. A lot of likes. Not too many love it. Some hates. Some people hate it. I wonder why. Looks like at least one person thinks it would be illegal. Let's go to our judges. Andy, starting with you. What are you going to give it?
Is this on or off?
It should be green. You want it to be green. Let's see. All right. Boy, technical promise. All right. We're good. We're good. Use that one.
Great. So I work with Chad, so I'm biased, so I would definitely say love it. No matter what, I think he's awesome. My only real question about this, though, is, and you're going to hear this with regard to another presentation that happens, I am deeply skeptical of experts to solve technical problems that we say are technical that may not be. So there's going to be another presentation that goes about the same idea of outsiders doing it, but uses a totally different non-expert community model. So it's for all of you to decide, but I'm just skeptical of experts, technical experts on this.
Okay, he says love it, but he doesn't really mean it. Okay, Joanne, what's
I am in the like it, I might even say like it plus category. I think it's a huge improvement over what most states are doing now.
Yeah, and it sounds like you would think the Department of Education should have no legal problems with it.
Correct.
Good. Okay. All right, Charlene.
I am also a like it. A little bit skeptical, so I'd say almost like minus about the role of outside observers, only because, you know, out in Arizona, those can be really interesting people. So I'm in the like it minus.
And you know, this sounds a little bit like charter school authorizers. So, you know, some charter schools love their authorizers and most don't. Okay. And Tony Bennett, where do you come down, Tony? I'm counting on you to be Simon here.
Well, I'm going to be a like it.
Wah, wah. All right.
But I got to tell you, I have gotten better, but there was no rating. I mean, to me, you have to tell people how schools perform. And I just think you really fell short there. I do appreciate the fact that you agree that you need someone maybe outside the department to do the evaluations, but I didn't find a school rating. And I would tell you, for me to love it, I have to know how that someone is telling me how schools perform.
You want A to F, or something like it.
Yeah, I want A to F.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. Excellent. Very well done. We've done our first one. Give yourselves a round of applause. More or less on time. Next up, we have From America Succeeds, Dale Chu.